Hello, hello, hello. This is Tooth Be Told, Dr. Kyo Dumpert.
Dr. Walter Aka.
And I'm Elias Hilaire, or Eli.
Okay, so Eli is actually coming on. He reached out to me, basically just talking about, hey, why don't we talk more about like diversity and everything? And you're about to start, and is it NYU?
Boston University.
Boston. I apologize. That's an insult to you. So you're going to be starting at Boston this coming year, and the one thing is the amount of African Americans, the amount of minorities, Hispanics, Native Americans are in dental schools and in dentistry in general is really, really lacking. I think we can all speak for that. Kyle, how many minority students were in your class? Do you remember?
African American, there were probably 3 or 4 in a class of 80. Asian was probably 10 to 15. Hispanic 3 or 4, I believe.
Right. And yeah, exactly. For me, Hispanics were 3, African Americans were 3, and let me see, Native Americans 0, Asians were, that includes Indian from India, were about, I think most 10. You see, out of 80 as well. You see, so these are the kinds of discussions that we need to have, because that's not encompassing of like what America looks like. Right. And when we talk about diversity, we're not just talking about skin color. We're talking about just culturally, like how do you relate to somebody? How do you treat somebody that you can't relate to culturally? How do you, because one thing that people don't understand is dentists, people trust us. People trust us to do what we need to do. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to drill your teeth and anybody can do that. No, it's who do I trust enough to give up my safety, right, too?
Right.
If a person doesn't trust you, or you can't relate to why they're anxious or why they've never been to the dentist. I know for me personally, coming from Ghana, West Africa, I never really went to the dentist every 6 months. It wasn't until I came to the U.S. that I actually went to the dentist, period. And that was because I had a chipped tooth in the front. And my dentist fixed it. Great guy, Dr. Goldberg. Still remember him because he was a wonderful pediatric dentist. But that's it, So how can you look at somebody and go, oh, why have you never been to the dentist when they're from another country or from another culture? Their mindset might be, hey, we only go when it hurts. And I hear that a lot.
Right.
Kyle, what do you think?
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, I think it's human nature to look to the people that are like us culturally, racially, to fit in or to have that basic level of trust. And yeah, I'm interested in talking about this topic and hearing what you have to say, Eli, and kind of how you got to where you are currently and what you're seeing.
Yeah. So Eli, you have the floor, my man.
Yeah. So again, I'll reiterate. My name is Eli. I'm an entering student at Boston University for the class of 2025. And yeah, I reached out to Dr. Aka via email, kind of just telling him a little bit about myself and kind of why I wanted to come on the podcast and talk about this topic. So yeah, the things you guys are saying basically directly relates to me and my journey to dentistry as well. So I won't tell, my whole life story, but in short, when I just graduated from college and I started like working full time, at the time I was still a pre-med student. And I decided, like, since I finally have some money in my pocket, one of the things I wanted to do was go back and get braces. I had braces before when I was like in middle school. And like beginning of high school. And when I got them off, I got a retainer. I had like a really big gap before I had braces. And so I got a retainer. I just kind of noticed that it wasn't really working that well. Like I was wearing it normally like I should have, but you have to take it out to eat. And even by the time I was done eating, my teeth would already have separated, especially where I had the big gap before. So for a while, I kind of just ignored it. It actually took me, I think it took me probably 2 years to, really mention it to the orthodontist. After you get your braces off, you go back for your retainer checks I forget how often it was. I want to say it was maybe like 6 weeks, or it could have been 6 months. I don't know. But I was there for one of my retainer checks, and I finally, mustered up the strength to tell my orthodontist, like, I don't know, like I think I'm wearing my retainer as much as I should, but it's just not seeming to work. And he took like a closer look, and he told me I needed a frenectomy. And I didn't really know what that was. Obviously now I do, but yeah, basically I found out that I had to get like a piece of my gums clipped in between my front teeth, and that was what was bringing my gap back. And I felt like, honestly, at the time, I felt kind of hurt because I feel like that was something that should have been noticed way earlier, maybe before I got braces, or right when I got them off. Either way, that it wasn't a problem that just appeared like way after I got braces. So once I went back to the same practice, but this time a Black woman had bought. Well, she was the new orthodontist at that practice, and she attended Howard University. So that was my first time seeing a dental professional that looked like me. And from my journey with braces and the frenectomy and all that stuff, this time when I got braces, I found myself on YouTube a lot, looking at like just different braces vlogs and braces videos and stuff like that, kind of trying to track like when I was going to get them off, because this time I was a lot more anxious, and I knew that now that I got the frenectomy, this time the gap won't come back. So I felt more confident in the process. And then by the
real quick, was that the first time you had actually seen a Black dentist, or just the first time you'd seen a Black orthodontist?
That was the first time I've had any Black medical professional in my life at all, whether it be a dentist, doctor, optometrist, anything. That was the first Black medical professional I've ever been a patient of.
And so how did you feel compared, like relative to the previous orthodontist? And I mean, minus your anger for them not detecting it earlier, which I agree with completely, but that's another story.
Right.
God knows how I feel.
So I definitely felt like she was more willing to hear me out, especially, since I already had this problem and braces aren't cheap. I told her I don't want to get braces again unless I can get a permanent retainer. And I didn't even really know that, a lot of orthodontists don't really like working with permanent retainers anymore, but she made it seem like it was no problem at all. And not only that, it kind of opened my eyes to a new profession. Obviously, I was kind of halfway there, since I was a pre-med student at the time, as far as the prereqs go, and, studying for those big exams like the MCAT and the DAT. But, it actually made me want to take a closer look into it. And so, yeah, that was a really positive outcome from going to a Black orthodontist and kind of seeing someone in your field that looks like you. That's something that kind of sets a barrier between, when you go further down the line, you see the low numbers of African-American students that are even applying. And that was something that I mentioned, like, of course, most of the schools besides Howard and Meharry and Tufts have, basically under 5 Black students in their incoming classes. But I mean, they only have so much to work with. There's only, honestly, out of the whole applicant pool, I think like each school has somewhere around 2,000 applicants, more or less. And most schools don't even have more than 100 Black students applying, maybe 150. So they're already at a kind of like a disadvantage to begin with.
Right. You mentioned the orthodontist was the first Black medical professional that you met, but you were already pre-med at that time. Is that right?
Yeah. So
what made you?
I should also mention that I have a cousin that's a dentist. So obviously she's a Black dentist, but I'd never even really I think until I decided that I wanted to take the chance to go shadow her, which was like way after the whole orthodontist thing. I mean, the last time I saw my cousin in person was like when she was graduating dental school, and that was in like 2003, I think.
So is she what made you decide on doing pre-med initially, or what was your inspiration to go pre-med?
Yeah, so honestly, the whole pre-med thing was basically, growing up, I was kind of into like science. I was a really strong math student, like growing up and through high school and stuff. I was pretty good at science, but honestly, like to be completely honest, like I wasn't really that into school. I just got good grades because I was smart and I was playing sports, and like I knew if I wanted to play sports, like I had to keep my grades up for my parents. So it was just kind of the trade-off that was there. And what really came natural to me was math. So when it came to applying to college, my parents kind of told me, you should go in, some kind of STEM field because science and math is really a strong suit. And so I just chose biology as a major. And when I got to college, it was like everybody in my class was pre-med. And so that's just kind of where I fell in. Um, and like another thing I kind of talked about in like my applications and my personal statement and stuff is pre-med is really is for a lot of schools, that's what's pushed heavily. They don't really push as much like the pre-dent track or pharmacy school or anything like that to biology majors. That's kind of something you have to already have decided for yourself, and then you go seek it out on your own. But if you are, coming into school as a bio major, they're like pre-med. That's just like what they throw at you all the time. You don't really hear about anything else.
And that's actually very true, Kyle. Remember the two interviews we had with Corey Black, Dr. Corey Black. He was pre-med.
Yep.
When remember, he's the one in New York. Then he came to dental after he shadowed and got a chance to see what dentists do. And the same thing happened with Braxton. Yep. Braxton Henderson, he was also pre-med. Then he came and shadowed, and I remember he shadowed me. Then he decided, I guess I didn't scare him away, so he decided, dental, Yeah. So again, you're absolutely correct. I feel like schools don't really emphasize dental at all. And,
well, I was pre-med also, going through my first three or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't really push it as hard. And I kind of had the same experience like you mentioned. Of course, like I said, the first time I really got to interact with a Black medical professional was with my orthodontist. But then I kind of talked to my mom about it. I'm like, so what do you think about me pursuing dentistry? And she's like, well, your cousin has a practice in Georgia. You should reach out to her and see if you can come shadow. And so that's what I did. And I ended up going down there for like a week. And I think one thing that was really unique about my shadowing experience, because she is a family member and I could live with her and stuff, is I got to see the whole life of a dentist besides what's just in the office.
And that didn't scare you away.
Honestly, I think that's what convinced me, to be honest.
Oh, she must have a nice house.
Yeah.
That's really what it was. Yes. If you would have shadowed me, you'd be like, why is he driving a Nissan? I'm not doing that. Oh, they're poor.
I mean, of course, the nice things doesn't necessarily deter you, but sure. I think one, and I had also shadowed doctors before since I was pre-med, so I had something good to compare it with. I think the thing that I really liked about dentistry was, and I could go down a whole list, but one thing is like
not an interview, so just be real.
Yeah, honestly, the quick turnaround time, like going to the doctor. Well, I was shadowing like orthopedic surgeons, so when someone comes into the orthopedic surgeon's office with like knee pain, it may be a week to 2 weeks before they can even get like an x-ray or an MRI or whatever they need, another month or 2 months before they can schedule you for surgery. And then depending on what surgery you have probably at least 6 weeks to maybe as far out as 6 months to recover. So between that, you have maybe like a whole year when someone walks into your office, and then when you finally see the result of, when they first came to you and you see the fruits of your labor. But then like my cousin's a general dentist. So when I was shadowing her, someone could walk in with tooth pain and walk out with it fixed. And it's a 2-hour appointment. And I just, that was something to me that I was just like, this feels a lot more rewarding as far, because for both, you spend 4 years in undergrad, 4 years in professional school, you work really hard to get here, and then you kind of realize, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. But yeah, with her, I got to see all the benefits of not only being a dentist, but running a practice, having autonomy over your own business and what it is that you do at your business, and really your life as well. Like, I feel like doctors, like, being a doctor is their entire life. You're always working. With her, it was like, she decides what she wants to do. So she stays open 3 days a week. I think she's open 4 days a week, maybe the first week of every month. And then I think one week she does a Saturday that she stays open to, do what works for your patients. But at the end of the day, she doesn't have to, her whole life doesn't have to be about being a dentist all the time. And I think, that's something I really liked about it.
Eli, you said two things that are really, really, just amazing, right? You said how quick of a turnaround from someone coming to your office being in pain to them getting out of pain. I feel like a lot of our patients don't understand or appreciate how fast we can get you out of pain. How many people talk about, I have hip issues, I have knee issues, and they've been dealing with that for years, right? They've been dealing with that. They go to this specialist and this person, and they'll go, let's take an X-ray here, let's do this. You come to one person, most general dentists can figure a way to get you out of pain. So I think that appreciation for dentists should be there, right? And then the second, you basically hit a hot topic that Kyle loves, which is being a private practice ownership. I mean, that's exactly what we talk about. Autonomy is important. I mean, Kyle, you can talk more about it, buddy. But I mean, come on. I mean, you talk about that all the time. Like that. You can write a book about that.
You design your life. Dentistry gives you the opportunity to design the life that you want. I mean, you can specialize if you want. If you don't want to specialize, you can focus on certain areas. If you're a general dentist, if you really like doing root canals and crowns, you can focus your practice primarily on that. You can work as much or as little as you want and still get, set up a good life for yourself, for your family. And it's really one of the best professions out there, I believe. There's a lot of bad things that come along with it. There's some trade-offs, but for the most part, I truly believe dentistry is one of the best professions out there, because you are helping people. It's on a daily or weekly basis. People walk in the door with tooth pain, and when you talk to them, a week later, 2 weeks later, hey, how's that tooth feel? Yeah, I haven't even thought about it. It's been fantastic, amazing, and that's the biggest compliment is that makes you feel good about what you can provide to people.
Well, let's jump into our main topic here, which is the diversity in dentistry in general. So, Eli, tell me what you're seeing right now when it comes to Boston, and how many African Americans do you know that are going to dental school, so are going to be in your year? Because I know now, there's a lot of communication between different students that are going to all over the U.S. So talk to me about like what you're seeing when it comes to diversity and what you're seeing when it comes to what schools are doing for minority students.
Yeah. So kind of the way I ended up at Boston is I thought they were pretty committed to increasing the diversity at their school. So when I got my interview invite there, I guess his official title is like the Assistant Dean of Diversity and Inclusion, reached out directly to me, and he's a Black man, Dr. Larry Dunham. And when I had my interview, it was just with him, and we had a genuine conversation about that. Just what I was seeing as far as diversity in not only just Boston, but schools all around the United States, and kind of what I thought about why it looked that way. Kind of like I mentioned to you, there aren't many applying to begin with, and me being at that school, like how I can help him and my class in general and all the Black students there can kind of help him, at least as far as our school goes, increase the diversity there. And I kind of just let him know, as a Black student, like I understand that the things I do can, very much help him as well as could hurt him when it comes to increasing diversity in the school. But I know that when I get there, one thing I'm really passionate about is just being your authentic self, no matter what that means. Be who you are. And honestly, there are people that might follow in your footsteps just because they see what you're doing, whether it be on social media, whether it be around the school. there's always someone watching what you're doing. I'm really a firm believer in that. Whether you want to, you know, think whether know it or not, there's always people watching what you do. I think one thing that I've noticed even is like ever since like I posted a picture showing where I was going to dental school, there's been a lot of Black pre-dents following my page, especially like a few that are in the same fraternity as me. And I think it just, kind of opens the doors for them to feel like they can reach out to a student directly. I know that I always had kind of like a big brother mentor type of person that was a Black student or a Black dentist that could kind of tell me what was going on and kind of how to navigate it. So I think I kind of escaped the root of your question, but
Look,
I just rambled a little bit.
You mentioned that in that phone call when he reached out to you that you guys were talking what potential reasons are where there isn't as much diversity.
Yeah.
What did you guys come up with as potentially some of those reasons?
Well, like I mentioned, I think a big reason is the fact that there aren't that many Black dentists as it is now. If you don't see someone in the field that looks like you, you're not really going to be attracted to it. And I think that was kind of my story as far as it went when I met my orthodontist. It's not necessarily that I had anything against dentistry. It just never really seemed like, really a profession that I would pursue. Just I never felt that I could relate to it. And obviously, even if my second orthodontist wasn't Black, it may have been having braces twice that factored into it as well. But I definitely think she played a role in that. And I'm very thankful for that she entered my life at the time that she did, because I already kind of knew that I wasn't super passionate about medicine. I feel like I was more passionate about helping people than I was about actual medicine. And one thing that I realized is that there was kind of only one specialization in medicine that I wanted to do, is orthopedics, which is very competitive. And I felt like if worse comes to worse, I get through medical school and I don't match with that specialization, like, will I be happy? And I really don't think so, honestly. So I'm glad that I met her when I did, and she kind of shifted my perspective, or at least gave me the idea to explore dentistry a little more, just from being in her presence.
Right. Here's a question for you, though. In 2005, when I applied for dental school and started, one thing that we talked about was there aren't enough diversity, there aren't enough minority representatives in dental schools, period. It's come 2021 and we're still having the same discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we need to improve on? I mean, minus action, like where do you think we need to improve on to actually get this discussion going in the right direction, because we can't wait another 15, 16 years to have the same exact discussion again.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like we're just going in a circle. We're just spinning our wheels. So we know that there's a problem. We know that we need to increase diversity, not for Howard, not for Meharry, but we need to basically get everybody to go all over the place so we can see more diversity. We can have more dental students applying who are minority students applying, So what can we possibly do? What discussions have you guys had now?
Yeah. Well, I can say that our group me of all the Black students that have been accepted for the class of 2025. I feel like a lot of people, including myself, are very proactive about, talking about ways that we can do this. So one thing there's a lot of things that people have talked about, and I don't necessarily know if, they want me putting it out there yet, but I can say at least tomorrow, one of the students that I think she's going to Howard. She is graduating from Spelman this semester, I believe. And I mean, like, you should have saw how quick it was. I think within maybe like 6 hours, she put together like a whole Zoom panel of, I think she has like 8 of us from the group me that are going to be speaking. She put together a flyer, a link. She talked to a whole bunch of schools, pre-dental societies, and is kind of already putting us out there as students that can help answer questions for minorities about, things that kind of deter minorities from applying to dental school, such as, like you said, the diversity in schools that are outside of just Howard and Meharry, things that you don't really get to talk to a real student about, such as things like applying with a low GPA or applying with a low DAT, or even some people just, even myself, like I said, since they push pre-med so much in undergrad, you don't even really know what it takes to apply to dental school, like the DAT, how to fill out the ADSAS, all that kind of stuff. Like some people really just don't know, and the information isn't privy to them. So I think that's one thing we're really trying to do, is really help develop, the popularity of the profession, as well as set an example using ourselves as, Black students who are in the school, and, kind of just showing who we are, and, the other aspects to us aside from just being a student, letting people see it's a real attainable goal to reach dental school, like to apply to dental school and get in. Like we all did it, and we're trying to show how we did it and help people kind of follow in our footsteps.
I'm going to preface this question as I know the answer in my head on why I feel like it's important, but why is it important to increase diversity in dentistry, in medical? What's your feeling on that?
Well, my feeling is that one, patients are more comfortable going to people that they feel like they may relate to more. I know that there's a lot of people I know that, like Dr. Aka said, don't go to the dentist every 6 months for a cleaning. They only really go when it hurts. And that's kind of like that's not a habit you want to get into. Honestly, the reason you're going to the dentist every 6 months is for prevention. You want to get your teeth checked out before it hurts, because once it hurts, you may be to a point of no return. But aside from that, there are also diseases in both medicine and dentistry that affects different, what's the word I'm looking for? Demographics at a higher rate. Things like, as far as medicine goes, things like, sickle cell anemia, stuff like that. I believe in dentistry, gum disease is at a more prevalent rate in the African American community. So, some people are embarrassed about things like that. I know something that growing up, this is gonna sound really ignorant, but like kids, like in our schools, like they would even make fun of people with dark gums because they don't even know that, it's just melanin cells in your gums. Like they think that, it's some kind of gum disease and stuff like that. And as a young kid, that could be very impressionable on you and really embarrassing. So, it's things as small as that, I feel like, is a reason that, there needs to be more Black dentists. Overall, I think it'll increase the health in the African American community.
And can I say, for that example of the pigmented gingiva, that's something that I get a lot of. And let's be completely honest. Kyle knows he will be able to say exactly the same thing that I'm going to say to these patients, right? But to kind of say, hey, look, I have it too, and there's no problem with it, is that connection, right? Kyle can educate them exactly the same way I can. I know that for sure. But it's just that ability to just connect a little bit and say, well, look, I have the same issue, or not even, sorry, let me rephrase. I have the same kind of gums that you do. And so for a little kid or for a parent, they might be like, oh, okay, well, that is normal then, right? Yeah. And that's the kind of connection that I think you're kind of speaking about, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to, so Spelman is an all-female, like what, minority school?
Yeah, HBCU, yeah.
US, right? Then you go into Howard, which is also historically Black college. Right. We're not doing anything by going to these schools when it comes to diluting the issue, or at least talking about, diversity. So how do we get people to get out of their comfort zone and say, okay, I get it, that I'm going to be one or two of the only Black students or minorities in the school, but it's a way for me to kind of open a window or open a door for somebody else who lives in that area. Right? And that's something that we got to have to understand. It's like people, Black people are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Black dentists only go to very select schools.
Right. Yeah.
We need to get out of that, right? Because if we treat the community. If we're treating the community, they might see you, Eli, and they might say, "Oh, I didn't know this was possible for me." And that's in Boston, you know, or Pittsburgh for myself, or maybe Minnesota, or wherever it may be. You see, how do we get out of our own heads and say we got to go outside of the Howards and the Hayes? Not to say that they're schools, by the way. I don't want anybody, especially Dr. Dennis, to get crazy.
Right. Well, I can speak, you know, from on my own behalf. I was the same way when I was when I first got into dentistry and was thinking about schools to apply. Honestly, I really wanted to go to Howard, and I feel like, you know, some people really want to go to an HBCU, especially if they come from a predominantly white undergrad institution. And you know, like I said, I was lucky enough that, you know, when I was an undergrad, I pledged a fraternity, and in my chapter alone, uh within the 3 years of people that pledged before me, we have now I'm going to be the fourth student dentist. We have two that have already graduated, one from Maryland, one from USC, and one that just started at University of Maryland. And I was lucky to, you know, have that in my immediate network and be able to talk to people like that. And so when I went to one and I said, you know, of course, all of them went to University of Maryland for undergrad. So they're coming from a predominantly white institution, and they decided to go to predominantly white dental schools as well. And, you know, I went to one of them and I said, you know, I really like Howard. And, you know, he kind of just told me, I understand, but you need to kind of expand your mindset, you know, shoot for those schools that, you know, things like Harvard, where you know you're going to be the example for people that look like you. You know, when you go to Howard, you're going to be a dime a dozen, but a school like Boston, I think right now there may be 5 or 6 students in my class that are African American. So, I mean, I haven't checked the group me very recently because it's been really silent in there, but yeah, you know, I know for me, I had the opportunity to talk to someone about something like that, but like I said, not everyone does, and that's just the reality of it. Depending on, you know, where you're from or what undergrad institution you went to, you may not even know any dentist or anyone that's in dental school, and you know, you have to resort to outlets like Instagram to, you know, find someone on there that you may have just seen on a, you know, like one of those repost pages that, you know, reposts people that post like their dental school pictures or something like that. Or, you know, for me, when it came to medicine, I looked to YouTube a lot. There's like an orthopedic surgeon on YouTube that's pretty popular named Dr. Webb, a Black orthopedic surgeon, and that was kind of my way of figuring out this kind of stuff when I was still a pre-med student. I didn't have anyone in my network like I did when it came to dentistry, so I just had to go to YouTube. And so I think, you know, there's other ways to do it, but it's not as personal as the experience that I had.
So I think anybody going into dental school has some kind of mentor that they look up to that maybe helps them through the process. So one of the ways that I've seen, or I think is a good way to increase diversity, or one of the biggest buzzwords or buzz topics that they talk about is, you know, all these areas, underserved areas throughout the country, where whether it's inner city or rural areas or something that they you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Where they want to get better access to care for whatever population is in those underserved areas. And I think having a mentorship program where the ADA, I just got an email from them the other day that they're setting up a mentorship program to help increase that diversity, and setting up those mentors that, you know, can help people in, you know, high school, college, let them know this is a potential path that you can go to, and helping them along the way, I think is one of the ways to address that issue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eli.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree. I think I saw that too. I think there's a group called Diversity in Dentistry that set up a like a mentorship program. It was I'm literally just hearing about it all like within the last couple of days, so I'm not 100% caught up on it. But I think there's like they're actively working on starting that mentorship program by the Diversity in Dentistry group.
So, looking at the environment in the U.S. right now with police brutality and just minority issues that we're having, how do you guys think that translate into dentistry, and how do we have discussions amongst each other about like, hey, this is what's happening with Black Lives Matter, with police brutality and all this stuff, because sooner or later we got to start talking about things like this, right? And how do we basically keep it on a level where we can respect each other's opinions without making it overly political, right? Because I feel like I'll raise my hand and say I feel like politics ruins everything.
Right.
I feel like once we get the government mindset in there, we basically just shut down, right? And you're going into an area in Boston where we know racism has been something that's been there for a very, very long time. It's been portrayed in movies and so forth. So how do we talk about racism and minority issues with an open mind with our classmates? You see, and I'll start with Kyle. Like, how do you kind of go through that? Because again, you and I are friends, but how do you go through that discussion? When you aren't experiencing that maybe as a minority student.
I think it's having an open mind and listening to what other people's experiences are. Obviously, I haven't experienced any kind of really blatant racism in my life. So it's not something that, when I look at, I try not to watch the news because I think they're they're looking for storylines and looking to create division in people and keep you glued to a TV. And if they can scare you enough, then you'll pay attention more and watch more news, and goes into, getting more advertisers, and it's all about, goes down to money. Where, I think you two are prime examples of, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you wouldn't see a lot of Black professionals. I think the racial climate is generally getting better and better if you don't pay attention to the news. You're both Black professionals that are, miles ahead of what the Black community would have been 200-300 years ago. So I think that speaks to it. But as far as
we're not there though, Kyle. You know what I mean? Like we're definitely not there when it comes to the representation in dentistry versus the representation in population.
Right. And I agree. I agree. And I think that comes back to the not having those role models to look up to know that it is a possibility, or whatever your living situation is, you're not looking at dentistry as a possibility to you. I think, and this is just my experience, I think no matter who you are, if you work hard enough, there is a little bit of luck involved, but if you're willing to put in the work, and you have those gifts of being smart enough to pass the exams and stuff, and if you put that work in, you can get to where you want to be. And I think you two are good examples of that. I think it's an access issue, or a not knowing what is available issue.
Right. I mean, so dental school is expensive, Eli. Have you noticed, or had discussions with other dental students about the cost and like what you guys are going to do? Because I know me, if I grew up in an environment where like we don't have much, how can I afford dental school? Like that's the first thing I'm going to think of. There's no way I'm going to go to a dental school when I can't afford it. You know what I mean? So these are the kind of discussions that like, and have you noticed that? And have you had with other minority students?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, even in our group meet for, class of 2025, I think that's where we have the discussion the most, especially because, you to be in the group meet, you don't have to have committed to a school. You just have to have been accepted to one.
Okay.
So there's still, you know, I've been in there since January, but you know, over time, there's still students that have been on the fence about different schools, and you know, we're talking about the benefits of one school versus the other, and every time, it all boggles down to the cost. And we talked about NYU a few times in there because of that same reason. And
Okay.
don't get me wrong, Boston's not a cheap school either. I was fortunate enough to receive, some scholarship money. But even with Paolo and talking about USC, that's not a cheap school by any means either. So we talk about costs a lot, and I don't think anyone really knows why the cost is what it is.
Well, I know why.
Yeah, I know why too.
I know why.
Yeah. But I think debt is a scary thing for the Black community. I will say that. And when it comes to thinking about when someone tells you you may have to go $500,000 into debt in order to go to dental school, that is something that will turn some people away immediately without even thinking about what the return of investment is, because they have no way to see it. I'm lucky enough to have a family member that owns a practice, so I have a better resource than Google when it comes to finding out how much dentists make. And Google can be a little misleading if you look up an average dentist salary. So, things like that, like Dr. Dumfries said, it's all about access. The resources you have access to, the people you have access to. And like I said, I didn't receive access to a minority dentist until I was, after I graduated college. I had access to students, but not everyone does. So it's all like you said, like it's about increasing access to people, to resources, to money, to a lot of things. But all of these things serve as kind of barriers to keep people away from the profession, I think.
I agree. Have you or do you know anybody who's already dealt with any racial issues in dental school, applying for dental school, or as a dentist? For example, I'll tell a story of my own in dental school, and this was a classmate of mine. I'm still friends with him, but I remember him coming to me one day. We were driving somewhere, and he was like, "Yeah, well, we were talking about just basically diversity in dental school." He's like, "Well, you got in because of affirmative action, right?" And I was like initially, it caught me by surprise. Like, are you serious? And at first, I was like, where is he going with this? And I let him finish, and I was like, well, no. I mean, my grades, if you look, I can tell you my grades. It doesn't matter. I can tell you that my grades were better than yours and other people. But in their mind, it was like, oh, well, we need to make a space for you. So affirmative action allowed you to get in. And that's something that I remember just going like, are you serious?
Right.
Then when I was at the VA, my first patient didn't want to see me. And I think, Kyle, I talked about this with you, didn't want to see me. And we went to the same VA. I mean, great experience, great VA. Opportunity for anybody. But I remember my first patient was like, no, I don't want to see him. And my director, Dr. Sullivan, was like, well, if you don't see him, then we're going to kick you out. So having somebody like that to just be like, no, you're not doing this here. It's something that was huge for me, because that was like, okay, that's my mentor now. And that's somebody that was sticking up for me. But have you heard or seen anything like that?
Honestly, I haven't. Granted, I haven't even spent one day in dental school yet, so I still have plenty of time. And honestly, you said,
hopefully you don't ever do that. Yeah, hopefully you don't ever.
What I will say is that what you said doesn't really sound like something that would never happen to me. I mean, even I could tell you about in high school when I got into the University of Maryland, and some of my classmates didn't. In high school I had a 3.5 GPA. I think I got like a 1740 or something on the SAT. Like I had pretty good grades and a pretty good SAT score, but because I got into Maryland and they didn't, and growing up in Maryland, a lot of people, that's their dream school. It was reduced to, you got in because you're Black. And I'm like, well, I mean, I am black, but you know, I also have better stats than you, so
Right.
that's why.
Right. And
So
a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't think that way, you know, or
right,
they don't want to believe that they think that there's some kind of systemic issue that's actually against them.
right,
As,
yeah,
as a white male or female, it's the system's against you. And I'm thinking to myself, no, the system's been helping you for a very long time. Like
right.
it's completely the other way around. But okay, let's talk
Yeah.
about
So,
it, you know.
so do you think? And if this question is too political, feel free to ignore it. Do you think the government trying to come in and fix something by putting in place affirmative action, do you think that helped or hurt the African American community overall?
You know, I
Because
think that's a
if people are saying to you, "Oh, you got in because you're black because of affirmative action," is that really something that's helping the African American community?
Okay.
right. Yeah, I definitely understand like what you're asking. I will say for me personally, if you know, if my stats back up the reasoning for why I got in, then there's no question, you know, what
Right.
regarding whether it was race or, you know, if when I go to dental school and people are asking, you know, what'd you get on the DAT, and I say 21, then that's why I got in. You know, it's not about anything else. Honestly, that's an above average DAT score. So that's all that should concern you as far as, you know, as far as
Right.
it goes when you're asking me. You know, now, you know, I think that's just ignorance, honestly. People say that as a cop out because they don't know what your stats are. But you know, once you tell them, you know, I mean, they don't know, so that's what they reduce it to. But if they knew, they wouldn't even really say it. So, I mean, I don't know if it's really hurt us more than it's helped us. Regardless, I think there are reasons aside from affirmative action why we end up the places that we are. And as far as it comes to me, I know that I've always had the rap sheet to back it up that I don't have to reduce anything I do to affirmative action of helping me or something like that.
You know, and Kyle, to answer your question, affirmative action, when it was first introduced, was basically try to level the playing field, because there were a lot of bigger entities that were trying to say, well, you're not going to even have access to this.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And as we went along, maybe it's not as needed, but it's still something that we all can agree hasn't improved, or we haven't gone as far as we could have, right? Yeah, I agree with you that sometimes the government is very wasteful. The government comes in and sometimes makes things worse. But in this situation, I think having a somewhat of a level playing field, or at least get close to that, was beneficial. You
Okay.
know, I can't speak for how it's transversed and gotten to this point, but I can tell you that just even saying that, hey, you need to hire somebody, or you can't have this mindset that I'm not going to hire somebody because of a skin color or something like that. It's not
Right.
right. That's something
Right.
that the government should have never gotten involved, but clearly they needed to in order for them to show that there is literally no way you're gonna be discriminatory towards somebody just
Right.
based on skin
Right.
color. You see, so I
Right.
think affirmative action was something that was needed uh, back in the day, and I actually think it's somewhat needed now. Even if we don't want to, even if we've come a long way, we've come a long way from the bottom, right? Like if you went from one to, I mean, if you want to go from like 0 to 10, you know, you've 10x your gains, but we're still not at 100, right? And so those are the kinds of discussions that we need to have. Is yeah, we've come a long way, but are we actually there? Right? I truly, and Kyle, we all know how you feel about the government. You know, you know, we all know. But I do believe that there are certain goals and aspirations and certain things that they've established that did help. You
Right.
know what I mean? Am I saying
Right.
that people aren't using that as a crutch to say, well, you must have gotten in because of that? I mean, Eli said it best. His rap sheet speaks for itself.
Right.
So for somebody
Exactly.
to make that mention is basically them being ignorant, saying, oh, I need to
Right.
make an excuse for why I didn't get it. That's
Right.
their
Right,
problem.
Right.
right,
Right. Yeah. There's people out there that aren't going to like you, whether it's a skin color, whether it's where you're from, whether it's what your political background is, whatever. I look at those as those are all individual challenges that help to build character. Some people you're just not going to get along with, but like Eli said, you have the grades, you deserve to be there. And when I want to go to see a doctor or see a dentist, I want the person that is going to be there, or that is going to treat me the best, that
Yes.
that I can, one, relate to, one that I can trust, and one that's going to give me the best chance of being the healthy person that I want to be, or achieve the goals that I want to achieve with my health. So that's why I was asking, did affirmative action hurt? Because it puts that doubt in some people's mind that, you're not here because you're the best. You're here because of some other reason, where it should be. And dental school, the thing of dentistry isn't, you want the smartest person in the world working on you, because brains, if all you have is brains, you're not going to be a good dentist. You might suck with working with your hands. It's an art form. It's, you have to be that complete package. So dentistry is hard in the fact that you can't base it straight on grades. How did you perform on this test? You need to have that whole package. And I don't know a good way to screen people to get the best of that whole package into dental school. But there's skin color has nothing to do with whether you're a good dentist or not.
And it's funny too, because people don't realize this, that the one thing about dentistry and medicine and any profession mostly, it kind of it kind of evens everything out, because in order to graduate, you have to get through certain things, especially in dentistry. You have to get through your didactics, you have to get through your hand skills and everything. There's so many ways where they can just eliminate and cut you off. So many different ways. So you getting through is just basically an homage to say that you actually were smart enough and good enough to get out of there. I mean, there are some people I wouldn't trust. I've already said this on the podcast. If you go back and listen to just pick an episode. There are some 10% of my classmates, I'm like, don't touch me, or anybody that I care or love about, right? And that's always going to be the case. But they're smart enough to get through, Right. But I will tell you, like you said, Kyle, skin color has nothing to do with it. Let's be completely honest. No. It's your drive and determination. But I think it all starts from, how do we get more people access, right, so that they can prove their intelligence, their skill set, so forth. That's the issue, is getting that access, like you said, Eli, that initial access, that the kids that are in elementary school to know that dentist, look, Eli is a dentist. Oh, Dr. Eli, okay. Let's talk about, like, how did you get there? And they can see themselves, okay, he used to play sports and I like sports too. And he's black and I'm black. And, that connection. Right. And that's what the ADA needs to really worry about. They need to stop worrying about dumb crap about, COVID and are we going to give shots or whatever. That's dumb to me. Focus on what actually matters to people. But that's another story. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah. And in my Boston interview, in my interview at Boston, they actually mentioned that part of their first year curriculum, they actually traveled to like Boston area schools. I can't remember if he said middle school or elementary school, but that's something that they're really actively involved in their community. And I think, I'm always thinking about, how am I going to kind of leave my imprint in helping increase the diversity in dentistry? And what can I do before I am an actual dentist that, may play a role in someone's decision, growing up about, deciding to look more into dentistry, or someone that's in college deciding to switch from pre-med to pre-dent or something like that. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is kind of putting myself out there, volunteering, being in the community, showing face, letting people see me. That way, they feel they have seen someone and they feel like they have that access. They feel like they have someone they can reach out to and kind of talk about, how do I apply for dental school? What do I need to do to get ready for the DAT, et cetera? Things that, they don't always get the answer to, especially not from advisors. I know, like I said, time and time again, especially not from, your undergrad institution, where they honestly act like dentistry isn't even a career field. Like, it's always medicine all the time. I think that's an issue that I really felt passionate about, is that, they don't really give you the opportunity to really go out and explore when they push one thing so heavily.
Well, okay, let's end it here with do you have any questions for us? Because you're going to be the future here. You know, Kyle and I are going to be retired, hopefully. Kyle's going to be surfing until he's at 90. And hell, I might be joining you, Kyle, after the last podcast. But, do you have any questions for us, or do you have any comments to make, or any advice to give to pre-dentals? Because I'm going to consider you a dental now, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, like,
yeah.
unless you don't show up for the first day, you're a dental, you know? So do you have any advice, or do you have any comments or questions or anything for anybody, you know?
As far as advice goes, I would say, no matter where you are now, as far as your journey to pursuing dentistry, for assuming you're already a pre-dental student, especially like, no matter if your grades suck right now, no matter if you already took the DAT once and you felt like your score wasn't good, honestly, like I would say, like, just keep going. Like you are the only person that's going to stop yourself from getting to dental school. And that's the honest truth. If you give up, that's the only way you're not going to make it there. I know plenty of people that have just kept pushing through, even though, they started their first 2 years of undergrad with a 2.0, or they took the DAT once and got a 15 or something like that. Like, honestly, you really have to just keep going. Like, you will get in if you just keep trying. That's just the honest truth. As far as questions go, I would ask you, Dr. Aka, if you could take yourself back to when you were in dental school, whether it was first year to fourth year, what would you have done differently to kind of help, or if you would have done anything differently, or what did you do to kind of help as a dental student, make your footprint helping increase diversity? Or is there anything you would go back and do if you got a chance to do it again?
Well, that's a good question. So for me, a lot of times it was talking to the pre-med organization for minority students, PALMS, at University of Pittsburgh. I was a member, right? And I remember I was the only dental, and I used to be like, hey, we need to go to dental school and see what they're doing and stuff like that. And I just think that just giving people an opportunity to go see what dental schools can do, what dentists can do, it's usually that turnaround that people need. I mean, Kyle mentions like just the great independence that you get as a practice owner, right? The ability that we have to make our own schedules, to live a good life, not be stressed, to give back at a faster rate than other professions. All these matter. And I think just giving people that little door or window to see what we see and why we're so passionate about dentistry would be what I would do differently. I would actually go and do more of that. Because when you're in dental school becomes your only tunnel. That's all you think about, man. I'll be honest with you. Like, I love hearing everything you're saying. I'm going to see you in a year. You're going to be like, oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even know the news existed. I didn't even know.
You go into survival mode at that point. I just need to survive this.
That's it. It's not until you literally get to third and fourth year that you just kind of take a sigh and go, oh, the world does exist. For 2 years, nothing else exists. And that was the one thing that if I could go back with the knowledge that I have now, I would make it so that other things existed so that I could do that. It wasn't until my third and fourth year when I was able to bring on other students and go talk to these pre-med organizations that I started seeing the difference. And I was able to convince and convert other people to dentistry. And they're doing excellent now, because people don't even know that in dentistry, we have anesthesiologists. So let's just say you don't even like anything to do with dentistry, but you still like the medical aspect, putting people to sleep and stuff. There's literally a whole gambit of people in dentistry now, and it's a specialist now. It's a recognized specialty that you can go and do anesthesia and put kids to sleep and put adults to sleep and so forth, and help with the dental fear, because that's real. Dental fear is real, So these are the things that like people don't know, or people don't understand. Then guess what? They just won't. If like me, Kyle and I joke about this all the time. I don't know anything about surfing. I might have done it one time, right? But if somebody doesn't introduce me, I just think that that's something that doesn't even apply to me. I'm ignore that. You know what I mean? And if I watch the news, it's people getting attacked by sharks in the water. So that's another reason why I'm not going to go that route. You see? So again, that one hands-on experience, that ability, and not everybody gets the opportunity like you did of having a person that they could see the before. I mean, before work, during work, and after work.
Mm-hmm.
If they actually took the time to see the before, after, or during and after, they'd be like, man, dentistry is all right. You know what I mean? But because while we're in there, we're stressed because we're dealing with so much. But outside, we're hanging out, we're hanging with family, we're working out, we're doing all this extra stuff. And they'd be like, man, this is a lot better than some of the medical people have got to deal with. And then for that, they would be like, I'm going dental.
Yeah, I think.
What do you think, man? I mean, like, what do you think we could do, from your point of view, to kind of help with this whole situation of just inclusion? Kyle.
I think it's something that no matter what stage you're in, there's probably somebody looking up to you. So Eli, there's probably a lot of pre-dental students or people in college or high school that are going to be looking up to you. Dr. Aka, there's people that are in dental school that are in high school that are looking up to you. A lot of times we don't know that we're somebody's role model. So, pay attention to how you act, how you hold yourself, because somebody's looking up to you for that role model of how do I get my life to be like this person's life? And I think present ourselves in a way that, if we were, to be on the front page of the newspaper, we're comfortable with that image that we're portraying of ourselves. So a lot of introspection, I guess, to make sure you're presenting yourself in a way that you're proud of, and knowing that unbeknownst to you, there are a lot of people that are looking up to you for where you are now and how they can follow that trail that you're helping to blaze so they can, get to that same point also.
And I will say, Eli, this is for you because I've done this a lot and I love doing this. Is whenever anybody even mentions dental, like, oh, I'm thinking about dentistry, take them on. I don't care who they are, take them on and be like, yeah, let me show you what I do. Just the opportunity and the person that actually saying, yeah, sure, what you just said is actually a good idea. Because sometimes, like you said, right, you don't know. Oh, well, I'm good at math, but would I really be a good dentist? You don't know. But having that discussion with them and talking to them, now you can relate to that person and say, well, I was good at math too. I didn't think medicine was for me. I didn't think, and now look at me. I love what I do and I'm doing this and I'm incorporating dentistry in this situation. I'm incorporating math in this situation. A lot of people don't realize that if you were a computer science or good with computers, you'd be incredible in dentistry, because dentistry is moving towards a lot of lasers and three-dimensional imaging and CAT cam and what's it called, those the 3D printing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's where dentistry is going, to the point where people you send an impression to the lab, there's no one literally sitting there doing what they used to do as a lab tech, waxing stuff up anymore. They're like, okay, let me just scan this, let me do this, and let me have the computer do all that. So dentistry is evolving every single year, and that's what we need to understand and show everybody that no matter what you are or what you like, there's something in dentistry. I promise you, something in dentistry for you.
No.
The ADA should pay me for that right there. That's the ADA needs to pay me, and if they steal my idea, swear to God, I'm suing them. Gentlemen, this was a great honor. I really appreciate this conversation. If anybody has anything to say, I'm out. I'm done talking. You guys can go ahead and take it.
Yeah, agreed. I really appreciate it. It's funny that you mentioned the surfing thing. The last episode you guys had did with the dentist that bought the practice during COVID in Hawaii. He mentioned he still, he has a kid and he still gets a chance to surf every week. It's something like that people don't know. Personally, I think being a dentist is really cool. People just haven't seen it for themselves. But I have, and I'm 100% in. So like you said, there's always people out there willing to serve as mentors. I'm definitely one of them. For anyone who listens that wants to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is _ Book of Eli, like the movie.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm also starting a YouTube channel because I want to, give people a chance to see what people do as pre-dents, see what people do in dental school. Whenever I do have the time to record do like a short YouTube video. I mean, right now I've been sticking to, since we're around the time of the application cycle, just offering advice for, my tips for applying to dental school, taking the DAT, how I studied, how I applied as a student on the, the lower end of GPA spectrum. And then, like I mentioned to you guys, like applying as a non-traditional student, someone that graduated undergrad about 4 years ago now. Spent some time working, doing different things, figuring out what I wanted to do, and then, going back and taking that DAT and applying to dental school and getting in on the first try, which is, I would say, it's kind of lucky for me, but, I definitely want to have the chance to give back and kind of, give that information out to people that I was lucky to receive from others, but not everyone, gets to receive. So
yeah,
the YouTube will be Student Dr. Eli.
And you guys that aren't watching us on YouTube right now, you should log on to YouTube and check out Eli's teeth, because shout out to your second orthodontist, because those things are looking good.
That is very true.
Thank you.
That is very true. He was blinding us. He was blinding us. Good. If they use you, Eli, at the school, make sure that they pay you for that, right? Boston's gonna be using you.
Yeah, more scholarship money from Boston.
My man,
I really appreciate it.
If you're listening. And Kyle, you're absolutely correct. If you go on our YouTube page, it's a Truth Be Told podcast. Just Truth Be Told podcast. You'll see Eli's wonderful, good-looking face on there, and then maybe he'll connect us with his podcast, and it'll be a full circle. Yeah. And of course, you can always listen to our podcast through any kind of podcast medium or whatever it may be. We're actually old people, but we're doing all right, Kyle.
Yeah, I see you guys working. I think when I first started listening to you guys, you didn't even have the YouTube yet. I don't think, or like, you guys were just getting it started.
Yeah,
so
you should see the struggle it was.
Still learning.
Learning. Yeah, man. But no, this was wonderful, guys. Definitely appreciate your time, Eli. Good luck with the future. We know that you're gonna have a bright future. It seems like every time we talk to another person that's going to dental school, we're like, God, we would have never made it, Kyle, with these.
Yeah.
We had to deal with this competition, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Thank God we got out, Kyle. Honestly, good luck with everything, and we definitely appreciate you guys. All right?
Thank you.
All right, Eli. Take care of yourself, brother.
All right, I appreciate it.